we launched the encampment here in Gaza Liberation Plaza. And here we are once again, months later, praying. And surely in our prayers, we're supplicating for our brothers and sisters who remain under the brutality of this genocide. And nothing has changed as far as the policy of this administration, as far as the policy of this country, except for a greater use of excessive force against the very same people that are trying to protest this monstrosity. I want the irony of this to settle in for a moment. Literally, today, we have seen the images of craters in the earth from American-funded 12-ton bombs falling on a set of tents and over 40 families disappearing into the earth. And here we are with that disappearance of people, of human beings, and the intensity of this genocide and atrocity. And we have a university that, instead of allowing students to voice their concerns over that very genocide, is complicit along with universities around the country in trying to remove tents from campuses to protest the greatest oppression that we have ever seen on our screens in our lifetime. Think about the irony of the fact that people pray on tarps in Gaza because every single mosque has been demolished. And here in the United States, where those bombs are being paid for, when we place tarps or tents and raise our voices for them, it is our voices that are suppressed, not their complicity in the brutality that is restrained. I want you to also let the irony settle in for a moment, that the very bombs that were used to bomb those camps in Gaza were paid for by your tuition dollars, unwillingly, literally to a weapons manufacturer, because UTD, like many other universities, refuses to divest from weapons manufacturers. In what civilized world do students have to pay for the bombs that kill their families back home as a means of getting their own education? And what I want us to do is to at least recognize that in the middle of this irony, that at least we're on the right side of history. At least we're on the right side of this oppression. At least we're not silent. And when people are penalized for being silent, then we have to raise our voices for them. I want you to think of this entire trench. And there is a subsection of humanity that is in the trench right now, trying to shield our brothers and sisters in Gaza from this brutality. And it doesn't matter what part of the trench you're standing in, but the point is that you're in the trenches with your brothers and sisters. You might have the responsibility to carry the water. You might have the responsibility to watch one entrance. You might have the responsibility to keep up the morale. But the point is that we're in the trench with our brothers and sisters in Gaza, with a subsection of humanity whose moral conscience has not yet died. And when people ask, when will we go back to normal? When will we go back to normal? The protests are getting thinner. The voices are getting quieter. The lines are becoming less. People can only keep up with this for so long. At what point do we go back to normal and just accept the daily reality of babies brutalized by our bombs, of people starved to death while we have our breakfast, lunch, and dinner, of schools being out in Gaza while we have our universities and our campuses? At what point do we go back to being normal? The answer is never. Absolutely never. Until life goes back to normal for them. And I don't mean normal for them as in pre-genocide. I mean normal for them as in pre-occupation. Never does this become normal. Never does this become okay. To be desensitized with this type of an atrocity sets the tone, not just for the continued abuse and brutalization of our people in Palestine and Palestine, but also of all other brutalized peoples. It tells people that it's okay for you to bomb so long as you are willing to keep on bombing and maintain that bombing for long enough to where our resilience wears off. And the reality is that this protest, and I've been told to very intentionally use the word protest. This protest must continue. The spirit of this protest must continue. And what I want you to recognize is that when any group of us is penalized because they are under the authority of the university or under the authority of some sort of corporation, when any group of us is silenced, it becomes that much more imperative for the rest of us to stand with them. And so we want to lend our voices to the UTD 21 because the UTD 21 have lent their voices to the people of Gaza. The voice of Gaza is their voice is our voice. We cannot simply let them be out front and take the brunt of these penalties while we go back home and live in our comfort, because they incurred that discomfort because they were uncomfortable with what they were seeing on their screens. We too are uncomfortable with these crimes against humanity, and it would be a crime against humanity for all of us to go quiet, for all of us to go silent. So once again, thank you to all of you who have come out. We applaud our brave and courageous 21 students that stood up and put their own education on the line in order to protest this monstrosity. And we call on UTD to hear the voices of its students, to hear the voices of the community, and to set a better example for universities across the country that are trying to silence the protests, as these protests will not go away, and these students will not go away, and we will not go away. We pray for our brothers and sisters in Palestine. We pray for our brothers and sisters in Gaza to be able to resume their education, to be able to resume their lives. And we pray to Allah, we pray to God to give us the courage and the sincerity and the resilience to stay firm with them so long as they live under this brutality. Ameen. Thank you all so much. Assalamu alaikum.